My beloved brothers and sisters, life often whispers doubts, criticism, and distractions into our hearts, pulling our attention away from the path that truly matters. But what if I told you that the key to peace and growth is not in fixing others, not in seeking approval, and not in controlling outcomes, but in turning inward? Focus on yourself, nurture your soul, and let go of the weight of what others think or do. Trust that Allah, in His infinite wisdom, is walking with you every step of the way. When you release the need to carry the burdens of the world and surrender to His guidance, you open space for growth, clarity, and serenity. Today, we will explore how focusing on yourself is not selfish. It is an act of faith, courage, and trust in Allah's perfect plan. Life, in its relentless rhythm, constantly challenges our focus, pulling our attention outward, urging us to fix what is beyond our control, to seek validation, to measure our worth against the fleeting judgments of others. Yet the most profound transformation begins not in changing the world around us, but in turning inward, in cultivating an inner sanctuary where the heart is attentive to the divine, where the soul can rest, where growth is nurtured through reflection and intentionality. To focus on oneself is not a call to selfishness, but an invitation to mindfulness, to recognize that the energy spent trying to control, influence, or demand from others often leaves the heart restless, anxious, and fragmented. When we dedicate our attention to ourselves, to understanding our intentions, our emotions, our fears, and our aspirations, we begin to see the subtle guidance that Allah places along our path, the whispers of wisdom in moments of solitude, the clarity that arises when the noise of comparison and expectation fades away. Each of us carries within a unique capacity to flourish when given space to reflect, to pause, and to reconnect with the source of all wisdom. It is easy to become entangled in the actions, choices, and opinions of those around us, believing that our peace is contingent on their behavior, their approval, or their acknowledgement. Yet in this entanglement, we forget that our responsibility is not to control others, but to nurture our own hearts, to seek alignment with values that are eternal rather than fleeting, to cultivate a character that mirrors integrity, compassion, patience, and resilience. The external world is full of noise, full of voices that demand our attention, full of expectations that are not ours to bear. By turning inward, by focusing on oneself, we begin to discern which of these influences are meaningful and which are distractions. We learn that true peace is not found in shaping the behavior of others, but in shaping our own hearts to respond with wisdom, grace, and clarity. Trust in Allah's plan is central to this journey. It is the acknowledgement that while we may not control the actions of others, we are never alone in our path. Every challenge, every disappointment, every encounter is a part of a tapestry woven by a wisdom far beyond our comprehension. When we surrender to this understanding, we release the burden of trying to force outcomes, of demanding recognition, of insisting on approval. We recognize that our effort, sincerity, and intention are what matter, and the results, though shaped by many forces, are overseen by a presence that is infinitely just and loving. The journey inward requires courage, for it asks us to confront our own weaknesses, to acknowledge our fears, and to face the parts of ourselves we may have ignored or denied. It is a journey of honesty, of gentle self-reflection, and of patience, as growth is rarely immediate, rarely dramatic, and often unseen by others. Yet this inward focus equips the heart with resilience, with the capacity to withstand criticism, with the wisdom to respond rather than react, with the serenity that comes from knowing that our worth is not dictated by external validation, but by the alignment of our actions and intentions with truth and purpose. Letting go of others, of their judgments, their expectations, and their control is not an act of rejection, but an act of liberation. When we allow others to be as they are, we release the energy wasted in futile attempts to mold them to our desires, and we redirect that energy toward our own growth, our own healing, our own alignment with the divine. This release does not mean indifference, it means clarity. It means understanding that love, respect, and connection cannot be forced, that they flourish naturally when hearts are nurtured with authenticity and kindness. Each moment spent focused on oneself is a moment invested in the foundation of a life that is resilient, purposeful, and aligned with a higher wisdom. In this space, we cultivate patience, learning to navigate the tension between striving and surrender, between action and trust, between effort and acceptance. We come to understand that while our intentions and actions are within our control, the unfolding of events, the responses of others, and the timing of outcomes belong to a wisdom far greater than our own. This understanding nurtures humility, a recognition of the limits of our power, and a reverence for the guidance that surrounds us. It also cultivates gratitude, for when we focus on our own growth, we become aware of the blessings and opportunities embedded in every experience, even in trials and challenges. We see that difficulties are not punishments but lessons, that obstacles are invitations to deepen trust, that setbacks are opportunities to strengthen resilience. This perspective transforms our experience of life, shifting it from a constant striving to please, control, or prove to a conscious participation in a journey of learning, growth, and alignment with what is true and enduring. Focusing on oneself does not isolate us from others, rather it equips us to engage more authentically and compassionately. When our hearts are grounded, our intentions clear, and our trust in the divine unwavering, our relationships reflect this inner stability. We respond with patience rather than reaction, with empathy rather than judgment, with love that is not contingent on reciprocation. We recognize that every interaction is a mirror, offering insight into our own growth and providing opportunities to practice presence, understanding, and generosity of spirit. In this process, we learn to discern between what is ours to carry and what belongs to others. We release the need to fix, control, or demand, and instead we embrace a posture of acceptance, allowing the natural course of life to unfold with its inherent wisdom. Our focus on ourselves becomes an anchor, a steadying force that allows us to navigate uncertainty with calm, to maintain integrity amidst chaos, and to sustain hope when outcomes are unclear. Trusting that Allah is with us does not absolve us from effort. It invites us to act with intention, courage, and perseverance, while relinquishing attachment to results. It reminds us that every moment of sincerity, every act of reflection, every choice aligned with truth contributes to the cultivation of a heart that is resilient, wise, and attuned to guidance. This trust transforms our relationship with disappointment, criticism, and loss. We understand that these experiences are not reflections of our inadequacy, but elements of a larger design that shapes character, fosters growth, and strengthens reliance on the divine. We begin to move through life with a sense of purpose and serenity, knowing that what belongs to us will find its way, that our efforts are never wasted, and that the presence guiding us is constant, compassionate, and wise. The process of focusing on oneself is ongoing. It requires mindfulness, intentionality, and patience. It asks us to check in with our hearts regularly, to realign our actions with our values, and to release what no longer serves our growth. It invites us to cultivate practices of reflection, gratitude, and prayer, to nurture the soul with knowledge, compassion, and awareness. In doing so, we build a foundation that is strong enough to withstand the trials of life, gentle enough to embrace joy, and wise enough to navigate complexity with discernment. This journey is deeply personal, yet universally relevant. Every human heart encounters distraction, criticism, and the temptation to seek validation outside oneself. The invitation to focus inward, to trust in Allah's presence, and to release control over others is timeless. It is a call to reclaim the heart, to cultivate peace, to nurture growth, and to live in alignment with a wisdom that surpasses understanding. Each day, each moment, offers a new opportunity to practice this focus, to release judgment, to strengthen trust, and to deepen the connection with what is eternal and true. Through consistent practice, the heart gradually sheds the weight of comparison, fear, and resentment. It learns to dwell in presence, to act with clarity, to respond with wisdom, and to engage with the world from a place of authenticity and grace. Challenges are met with resilience, setbacks are embraced as lessons, and successes are celebrated with humility and gratitude. The mind, once restless and scattered, becomes attentive and deliberate. The heart, once burdened by external expectations, becomes serene and aligned. The spirit, once anxious and uncertain, grows confident in the guidance and support that is ever present. Through this inward focus, we cultivate an awareness that shapes our actions, informs our decisions, and illuminates our path. We recognize the subtle cues in our experiences, the signs of guidance, and the lessons embedded in every interaction. Our priorities become clear, our intentions refined, and our hearts equipped to navigate the complexities of life with balance and perspective. In this space of reflection and alignment, we also cultivate compassion for ourselves and for others. We see that everyone is on a journey, that everyone is navigating their own challenges, and that our role is not to judge or control, but to act with understanding, empathy, and integrity. We learn to offer guidance gently, to set boundaries respectfully, and to engage with the world from a position of centeredness and wisdom. By focusing on ourselves, we also learn the art of letting go of expectations, of attachments, of judgments, of the desire to control outcomes that are beyond our capacity. This release is liberating, for it frees the heart to invest its energy in growth, in alignment, in actions that matter, and in relationships that are authentic and nourishing. The act of focusing inward is a declaration of trust. Trust that our efforts, sincerity, and intentions are seen, valued, and guided. Trust that what belongs to us will reach us at the right time in the right way. Trust that in the vast design of life, we are never alone, and every experience, no matter how challenging, contributes to our growth, understanding, and alignment with purpose. This focus, this inner cultivation, becomes a source of resilience in times of difficulty, a source of clarity amidst confusion, and a source of serenity in moments of uncertainty. It transforms the way we engage with life, shifting our energy from striving for control to cultivating presence, from seeking validation to nurturing integrity, from fearing loss to embracing trust. In this continuous practice, we learn to value our journey, to honor our growth, to cherish the lessons, and to act with intention. We come to understand that the journey of self-focus is not about isolation, but about alignment with our values, with our purpose, and with the divine guidance that accompanies us at every step. The heart, when focused inward, becomes a source of light, not only for oneself, but for those around us. It inspires through example, responds with patience, and nurtures with wisdom. The mind becomes clear, discerning, and intentional. The spirit becomes attuned to the subtle rhythms of life, capable of navigating complexity with serenity, and capable of embracing joy with gratitude. Through this journey, we learn to hold space for ourselves, to honor our emotions, to respect our boundaries, and to cultivate practices that nourish growth, resilience, and understanding. We discover that focusing on oneself is not a detachment from the world, but a deeper engagement with life, one that is guided by wisdom, centered in clarity, and grounded in trust. The lessons of this inward focus extend to every aspect of life. Decisions become more thoughtful, actions more aligned, relationships more authentic, and challenges more manageable. The heart, having released the burden of external validation, responds with gentleness, courage, and insight. The mind, having turned away from distraction, discerns what is essential, prioritizes with wisdom, and engages with focus. The spirit, having embraced trust, moves forward with hope, patience, and resilience. This continuous cultivation of self-focus nurtures a life of purpose, meaning, and alignment. It allows us to engage with the world without losing ourselves, to act without attachment, to love without dependency, and to grow without comparison. It is a practice of faith expressed through action, a cultivation of the soul reflected in choices, and a dedication to clarity manifested in every decision. In the embrace of this inward journey, the heart becomes aware of the subtle presence that guides, the unseen wisdom that supports, and the divine care that sustains. It recognizes that effort is never wasted, intention is never unnoticed, and sincerity is never overlooked. It learns to trust the rhythm of life, the unfolding of events, and the perfection of timing that is beyond human comprehension. The practice of focusing on oneself, when aimed with patience, intention, and trust, transforms not only the individual but the environment around them. The energy once spent on controlling, demanding, or seeking validation is redirected toward growth, clarity, and alignment. This redirection fosters resilience in adversity, clarity in confusion, and peace in uncertainty. It nurtures the capacity to respond thoughtfully, to act intentionally, and to live authentically. In this sustained practice, the heart cultivates a rhythm of presence, reflection, and alignment. It comes to recognize that life is not about controlling others, achieving perfection, or accumulating validation, but about nurturing the self, honoring the soul, and trusting in the ever-present guidance that accompanies every step. The journey is continuous, requiring mindfulness, patience, and intentionality, yet the rewards are profound: serenity amidst chaos, clarity amidst confusion, and resilience amidst trials. The heart, having learned to focus inward, approaches life with wisdom, strength, and grace, knowing that the path of growth is guided, every step is witnessed, and every effort is meaningful. The cultivation of this inward focus allows for a deeper connection with the divine presence that is constant, compassionate, and wise. It enables a life that is intentional, values-driven, and spiritually aligned. It nurtures the capacity to navigate complexity with discernment, to respond to challenges with patience, and to engage with the world from a place of grounded authenticity. The practice of focusing on oneself is not solitary, but relational, for it transforms the way we engage with others, the decisions we make, and the intentions we hold. It equips the heart to interact with clarity, integrity, and compassion, freeing relationships from the burdens of control, expectation, and judgment. In every interaction, the self-focused heart brings presence, awareness, and wisdom, fostering connections that are genuine, nurturing, and sustainable. This journey inward, guided by trust in Allah, is a source of enduring peace, resilience, and clarity. It nurtures a life that is purposeful, grounded, and aligned with what is true. It transforms the experience of life from one of reactive striving to one of conscious participation, from seeking validation to cultivating integrity, from fearing loss to embracing trust. In the quiet moments of reflection, the heart recognizes the power of this focus, the serenity it brings, and the strength it nurtures. It understands that the cultivation of self, guided by intention, patience, and trust, is the foundation of a life lived with clarity, purpose, and spiritual alignment. The practice continues, moment by moment, decision by decision, reflection by reflection, cultivating a heart that is resilient, a mind that is discerning, and a spirit that is attuned to the guidance and wisdom that surround us at every step. Letting go of the need to control others or to seek their approval is one of the most profound and transformative practices a heart can engage in. Many of us spend our lives carrying the invisible weight of expectation from family, friends, colleagues, and society, all the while believing that our peace and happiness are contingent upon how others respond to us. We strive to mold, persuade, and influence, often at the cost of our own serenity and clarity. Yet the truth is that this need to control and to gain approval is a burden we impose upon ourselves, a cycle of tension that leaves the heart anxious, restless, and unfulfilled. Recognizing this is the first step toward liberation, toward an inner life that is guided not by external pressures, but by intentionality, values, and trust in Allah. Letting go does not mean indifference or disengagement. It does not require withdrawing from relationships or abandoning responsibility. Rather, it is a conscious choice to release the attachment to outcomes that are beyond our control, to release the compulsion to be validated or affirmed by others, and to allow life to unfold according to wisdom far greater than our own understanding. In this release, the heart discovers freedom. It discovers that peace is not found in persuading others to meet our standards or in forcing circumstances to conform to our desires. Peace is found in embracing the reality of what is, in responding to life with clarity, integrity, and wisdom, and in trusting that the efforts we make with sincerity are sufficient in the grand design of life. The need for control often stems from fear, the fear of rejection, failure, or loss. We fear that if we do not influence others or gain their approval, we will be diminished, unseen, or unworthy. Yet this fear is a shadow, masking the truth that our worth is not dictated by external recognition. Our worth is inherent, rooted in the divine creation within us, and nurtured through the alignment of our intentions, actions, and values with what is true and good. By letting go of control and approval, we allow the heart to breathe. The mind becomes less cluttered with worry and speculation about what others think, say, or do. Energy that was once spent in trying to manipulate circumstances or gain affirmation is now available for reflection, growth, and purposeful action. This shift transforms our engagement with life from a reactive struggle to a conscious and intentional participation. Letting go is an act of courage, for it requires confronting the deep-seated beliefs and insecurities that have conditioned us to seek validation externally. It requires acknowledging the vulnerability that comes with releasing attachment to outcomes. Yet it is precisely through this vulnerability that strength, resilience, and authenticity are cultivated. As we release control over others, we cultivate trust. Trust in Allah, trust in the natural unfolding of life, and trust in our own capacity to navigate challenges with wisdom and integrity. This trust does not negate effort, it reframes it. Effort becomes purposeful, grounded in intention rather than desperation for approval or influence. Our actions are no longer dictated by fear or desire for recognition, but by alignment with truth, values, and what is within our capacity to influence. Relationships, too, are transformed by this letting go. When we release the need to control, we allow others to be themselves, acknowledging that each person's journey is their own. This recognition fosters compassion, empathy, and patience. It allows connections to flourish naturally without the tension of manipulation, coercion, or expectation. The heart, having released attachment to approval, can love, guide, and support freely without the invisible strings of demand or judgment. Letting go also cultivates discernment. We begin to recognize which efforts are within our capacity to influence and which are not, which expectations are reasonable and which are projections, and which attachments are nurturing and which are burdensome. This discernment brings clarity and reduces the inner turmoil caused by futile attempts to control what is beyond our power. The practice of letting go is deeply spiritual, for it aligns the heart with the reality of divine wisdom. It is an acknowledgement that while we are stewards of our actions and intentions, the outcomes, the responses of others, and the timing of events are ultimately guided by a presence far wiser and more compassionate than our own understanding. This recognition fosters humility, gratitude, and serenity. Letting go requires patience, for it is not a single act, but an ongoing practice. The heart will be challenged by old patterns of control and the familiar lure of seeking approval. Yet with persistence, reflection, and mindfulness, these patterns gradually lose their hold, replaced by a deeper trust in the process of life, a stronger alignment with values, and a more resilient and peaceful heart. In moments when we face criticism, rejection, or disappointment, letting go enables a response rooted in clarity and integrity rather than defensiveness or anxiety. We learn to observe without overreacting, to act without forcing, and to maintain composure without numbing the heart. Each challenge becomes an opportunity to strengthen trust, refine intention, and deepen the understanding that our peace is not contingent upon external validation. The energy once spent on pleasing others or controlling circumstances is redirected toward cultivating self-awareness, nurturing growth, and deepening spiritual connection. This redirection enriches life, infusing T with purpose, intentionality, and serenity. It allows us to approach each day with clarity, to make decisions aligned with values rather than fear, and to engage with the world authentically rather than performatively. Letting go is also an act of love for oneself and for others. By releasing attachment to approval, we honor our own worth and dignity, acknowledging that we are enough as we are. Simultaneously, we grant others the same freedom, recognizing their autonomy and their right to be themselves without the weight of our expectations. In this mutual release, relationships become more genuine, interactions more meaningful, and the heart lighter and more open.